In this episode of the Admiral's Almanac is titled Leadership Now.
Welcome aboard. This is the Admiral's Almanac, your leadership life connection, bringing leaders from all walks of life into yours so you can take charge, improve your leadership, and improve your life. With the wit and wisdom of your host, Rear Admiral Gary Hall.
And thank you, and welcome to the Admiral's Almanac. I'm your host, Rear Admiral Gary Hall. The Admiral's Almanac has been in hiatus for 2 years based on the recommendation of White House counsel. And now that I'm no longer in federal service, we are relaunching the Admiral's Almanac. And in this episode, I'd like to entitle it Leadership Now. These are the tenets of leadership that I have developed for over 30 years in the United States Navy and that I've shared with my wardrooms, with organizations, with business leaders, with church leaders, in fact, even with the priests of the Archdiocese of Washington DC. And each group gets some nuggets of information to improve their leadership out of this. And the reason I call it Leadership Now, here it is 2020, and what do we need right now during a pandemic, during quarantine, during social justice issues? We need leadership, and we need it now. I was once told by a well-known individual that politicians will do anything to avoid pain, but leaders, they'll do the right thing regardless of pain. So why don't we get to it? And this is a talk that I have given for many, many years to diverse organizations, again, on leadership. What I'd like to do with you is discuss some of the basic leadership tenets that I have developed over my 35-year commissioned officer career in the United States Navy. And as you look over LinkedIn or any other business websites, everyone is talking about leadership. So I feel a little bit like Winston Churchill when he said the three most difficult things to do are to climb a wall leaning toward you, kiss a pretty girl leaning away from you, and third, talk about a subject that your audience knows more about than you do. But I feel 34 years as an officer in the United States Navy gives me a little bit of street cred on leadership. In fact, the Navy is a leadership laboratory, as all the services are, and you learn leadership from both the good leaders and the bad leaders. So at all levels, leadership is necessary to be successful in any environment. I felt that leadership, it's my calling. In the Navy, the real weapon system is people, as in all services. It is the people that are our weapon systems. It is the people that make the difference in our military, and it's leadership that brings out the best of them. I once talked to a venture capital executive, and he said, there are plenty of ideas out there, and there's plenty of money, but what we don't have is leadership to connect the two. That may be an oversimplification, but if you think about that, people have great ideas. There's a lot of money out there to be spent, but if you don't have leadership in order to bring it all together, you're not going to be a success. You know, everywhere we look, leadership is needed. It's needed in politics, of course, both at the local level and the national level. It's needed in our schools. The success of our nation is going to be the success of our young people today, and we've got to get them educated. When you have a number like 30% dropout rate in high school, definitely leadership is needed to educate our youth and to get them to complete school. Also, leadership is needed in relationships. It's needed in the home. You can't have a family if there's not a leader in the family. Now, that doesn't mean that the mother or father, one of them has to be the leader, but you change roles. Sometimes it is the husband that leads. Sometimes it is the wife that leads, and sometimes it may be one of our older children that leads in the family. But if without leadership, you're just going nowhere in a family. Of course, also in churches, there's no such thing, you've never heard in a church, a lay manager, but it's a lay leader. My contention is that I can teach you leadership. You never see a birth announcement that says a great leader was born today, weighing 8 pounds, 2 ounces, 21 inches long. No, you read about leadership in the obituaries. And so leaders are not born, they are developed, nurtured, and taught to lead. And I feel if you have basic intelligence and basic motivation, I can teach you to lead, because I was once a flight instructor. If I can teach you to fly an aircraft, I certainly can teach you to lead. Now, we can talk about how to drive a car, put the stick in drive, hold onto the steering wheel, put your foot on the gas, and go. Well, it takes more than that to learn how to drive a car. You got to get out there and do it. So leadership is the same way. You can read all the books, you can listen to all the podcasts, but you got to get out there and just do it, as the advertisement says. So many people in their roles and positions at work, in family and organizations, they're designated as leaders, and you're assumed to be leaders, but sometimes you're not leading. Now, an organization, they want you to lead, not just manage. The one thing about leaders is you are rewarded beyond your wildest dreams. You only go around once in your life. And when you look back on your life, will you be filled with any regrets? It's much better to be a leader. In fact, when I come to my earthly end, I want to go like my grandfather did, in a deep sleep with a smile on his face, knowing he's done great things. I don't want to be screaming and yelling like the passengers in his car. Okay, let's get to work, and let's define a little bit about leadership. All you have to do is stop at any bookstore in an airport, and you'll see leadership books galore with many definitions. Now think about time. Everybody knows what it is until you're asked to define it. And leadership is much the same way in its difficulty in being defined. But here's a good definition that I've found. Leadership is the ability to inspire appropriate action beyond the expectable. Leadership is the ability to inspire appropriate action beyond the expectable. Now, leadership and management are often confused. I went to the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops and said they wanted me to help them with leadership. And I said, let me see what you have on leadership. And when they handed me, here's the file, here's the notebooks we give out to priests for leadership, and it turned out it was all about managing and not one thing about leading. It was about managing finances, managing an office, but nothing about leadership. Now, one simple discussion on leadership is that leadership is doing the right thing, and management is doing things right. Now, if you have a teen or a tween in your life, ask them that question. Give me an example of doing the right thing, and give me an example of doing things right. Try that with a family member, and you'll be amazed at the insightfulness that a young person has on that topic. I think when my youngest son was 9 or 10 years old, I asked him, I said, hey, give me an example of doing the right thing and doing things right. And he said, hey, Dad, can I use an example from sexual education class I took today? Now, you can only imagine, I'm wondering what this 9, 10-year-old is going to share with me from sex ed in elementary school. I said, okay, I'm listening. He said, Dad, well, if I was going down the street and I saw somebody laying in the street and they were bleeding from the head, to do the right thing, I would run over there right away and stop the bleeding and start the breathing. And I'm going, Okay, that's doing the right thing. I said, well, what's your example of doing things right? He said, well, if I was doing things right, I would go over to him, get down, ask him a question. Do you have any communicable diseases I should be concerned about? Do you have HIV/AIDS? I would then put on a pair of rubber gloves, maybe a face mask, and then I would administer first aid to stop the bleeding and ensure there was breathing. So I think that's a great example of doing the right thing and doing things right. But as you progress in life, in experience, and in levels of leadership, as the Chief of Naval Operations said, at some point, you need to blend the two. You need to do the right thing, but you need to do it in the right way. So the one thing that leadership does is it contributes to success on the margins at no cost at all. Through leadership and building trust, you build efficiency into an organization. You save money. It motivates people. It makes them work a little bit more. And then if you're not around and you've used proper leadership, an organization will continue. It inspires people and continues the mission. So here's the leadership traits that I see are important. The first one, and this is an easy one to understand, is desire. This is the first step in being a great leader. You've got to want it. Good leaders are rarely reluctant, nor is leadership for the faint of heart, because you've got to make some tough decisions. To lead, you must be out in front. If you don't have the desire, it's a long walk to the head of your unit. You've got a desire to lead. As Patton once said, a piece of spaghetti or a military unit can only be led from the front end. You've got a desire to get out there, be in front of that unit, and lead. And I'll tell you, just taking that position of standing out in front and leading makes a difference, and not everybody will go along with you. I mean, you can name a Kentucky Derby winner, but I doubt if you can name who came in second place in that race. So once you have the desire and you get up on front, you're going to be recognized as a leader. My second item of leadership is commitment. We've talked about desire. You may want to lead, but now you've got to be committed. In naval aviation, we always talk, if you're going to talk the talk, it's time to walk the walk. I've found that in naval aviation, in life in general, there's only 3 types of people in the world. 1, those that are good with math, and 2, those that aren't. Insert laugh here. There's 2 types of pilots, though. There are those that say they want to fly and those that want to fly. Those that fly get the tough, rewarding missions. Those that don't want to fly, we call them seagulls. You got to throw a rock at them to get them up in the air. So to think about commitment, take your average breakfast. You know, a farmer participated and he provided the potatoes for hash browns. A baker contributed and participated by providing bread for toast. And a chicken participated, providing the eggs for those scrambled eggs. Now the pig is committed. He provided the bacon. So if you're going to be a leader, we need you to be committed. We need you to be the pig in that breakfast. The third specific aspect of leadership is responsibility. You need to be responsible to yourself. You know, you need to take care of your health, your well-being. You need to have a balanced life, a moderation in all things. If you're not a responsible individual, the weight of leadership will be difficult to bear. So bulk up and step up. Be responsible to yourself. Next, you need to be responsible to your team. You need to know your team, the ins and outs of their lives, what makes them tick. And then you need to be responsible to your profession. You need to know everything about your profession. You need to become the expert through experience, through reading, through learning, through seeking out mentors. As Abraham Lincoln once said, I neither ask nor desire to know anything of your plans. Take responsibility and act and call me for assistance. So think about that. Who would you call if you needed assistance? That's why you need to find a mentor if you don't have one right now. So I need you to step up, take responsibility, and lead. A fourth item of leadership would be accountability. Now, this is the tough one. This is what separates the good from the great. The great leader accepts accountability without equivocation. An example would be a ship's captain or squadron CO. The ultimate buck stops here in leadership. Responsibility can be delegated, but accountability always remains at the top. So remember, desire, commitment, responsibility, or accountability. The troops can smell the lack of accountability at the top. It takes courage to lead. It takes courage to have accountability. Now, many young men talk to me about courage, and as I always tell them, courage is not the absence of fear, but working through your fear. Now, we've talked about desire, commitment, responsibility, and accountability. Well, the next aspect of being a leader is to have a clear vision, to have the message of leadership. Without a vision, where are you going? What is your compass, and how do you get there? Your vision can be detailed and well-developed. You could have a 5-year plan, or it can be made up on the fly as appropriate, whether it be a pickup softball game, a trip to go camping, or any other program. You could have a vision and a message on the fly for small objectives. Once you have a message, you create a vision for others to see as you see it. Dreams create attention and draw others to it, and leaders are passionate dreamers. As Walt Disney said, if you can dream it, you can do it. Leaders are dreamers. But to lead with a vision, you can't just dream it, but you need to put a timeline to it. And that's where your next step is goals. You've got a vision. Now you've got to set up goals. I had somebody ask me the other day, can you help me understand the difference between a goal and a milestone? And I said, yes, we were talking about the book, Think and Grow Rich. A goal would be, in 5 years, I want $5,000 of disposable income available to me in cash. Well, that's the goal. A milestone would be 1 year from now, do I have $1,000? Next month, do I have $100? So your intermediate steps to your ultimate goal are a milestone. You need to set goals. You need to write them down. I find that writing your goals down, writing them out in hand in today's electronic world of iPods, iPads, iPhones, it's best to use a pen and a 3x5 card, because there's something that happens between your brain and your hand and that pen and that paper as you write out your goals. So, fix in your mind a goal, determine what you will give in return for achieving that goal, then establish a date to achieve the goal. Again, a goal without a date or timeline is just a dream. Create a definite plan to accomplish this goal and start now. When you have a goal, if you want that $5,000 in 5 years, if you work it backwards, there's something you need to do today. So start now. Write out a clear statement of your goal, the plan, and the date. Read and review it routinely. Share with others. Meditate on it. Goals are 50% dreams and 50% reality. So see it, believe it, achieve it. So you have desire, commitment, responsibility, accountability. You've got a vision. You've set goals. Now you've got to communicate those goals. Every leader must be able to communicate the vision, and you've got to be able to communicate it over and over and over again. You've got to be able to communicate your vision in speaking, in writing, and as a physical example of showing how you conduct your life. Practice, practice, practice. Talk, write, show. You can do this. So the leadership bottom line that we will continue to discuss on this podcast is lead by example. Leadership is what leadership does. Empower those in your team, under your leadership, and identify and empower others in your organization that can also lead. There's certain traits of a leader, and we can debate that, but a leader has unwavering courage. And again, courage is not the absence of fear, but having a vision, working through your fears to lead. A leader has self-control, everything in moderation. If you can't control yourself, how can you lead and control a large organization? And a leader has a sense of justice, of fairness. A leader has definitiveness of decision. A leader has a plan. A leader does more than is expected. And I would say a leader has a pleasing personality. Commander O'Connor was at the Naval Academy as a chaplain. Later, he went on to be the beloved Cardinal of New York. And I remember he was telling us young midshipmen that he couldn't go to Vietnam. And they asked him, "Why can't you go to Vietnam?" He said, "Well, it's because of my eyes." He said, "What's wrong with your eyes?" He said, "I can't see getting shot at." We loved him. He led us. He made a difference in our lives, and he used humor and a pleasant personality. A leader must be understanding. He's got to understand where those that he is leading, where they're coming from, what motivates them. A leader's the master of details. Of course, willingness to accept responsibility. And a leader is willing to cooperate with others because the power of leadership requires cooperation. So the bottom line, you can increase the performance of your organization. You can increase the bottom line. You can improve your business, improve your organization through positive, pleasant, motivated leadership. So remember, leadership is the ability to inspire appropriate action beyond the expectable. Choose to be somebody who leads. Give thanks for the opportunity to lead. And I want you to think, ask, and act. Think about this. Leadership is what leadership does. Ask yourself, am I making a positive difference in my role as a leader? And act. Join me. Join others in the calling of making a difference through leadership. One organization, one person, one individual at a time. This is the Admiral's Almanac, and this will be the basis of our discussions on leadership through discussions, interviews, questions, and humor. So desire, commitment, responsibility, accountability, creating a vision, communicating that vision, setting goals, achieving those goals. You can do this. This is Gary Hall, and that is all. So there you have it. My tenets on leadership that I have shared for over 40 years now. In every group I communicated to, there are nuggets in there that you can tease out and adapt to your own leadership style. Also, think about that. Using those tenets to measure leaders in politics or in movements that are going on today. Are they taking responsibility? Do they have commitment? Do they have responsibility and accountability? Do they have a clear vision, and are they communicating that vision? So hopefully this talk gives you some insight and some motivation on your own leadership, gives you a measuring stick to measure others who are leaders, because you can learn from good leaders and you can learn from bad leaders. So this is Gary Hall, the Wit and Wisdom that I have had for over 40 years in the United States Navy, and we look forward to teasing out leadership and discussing other opportunities here on the Admiral's Almanac. So subscribe to the Admiral's Almanac on your Apple iPad, iPhone through the podcast application. And this is Rear Admiral Gary Hall, and thank you for listening. I want to thank those two new subscribers who are listening. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. Love you. And this is the Admiral's Almanac. We are out of here.